What if trying to stay young didn't preserve beauty, but erased the very face the world once loved? In Hollywood, fame and fear of aging often collide, pushing celebrities toward irreversible choices. This is not tabloid gossip or shock for attention. It's a sober look at how the pursuit of youth, combined with power and pressure, can permanently redefine identity and leave lasting regret where admiration once lived. Donatella Versace's face tells a story that cannot be understood through a single procedure or a single moment. It is the result of decades spent under an unforgiving spotlight where beauty, power, and identity are constantly examined and rarely allowed to age naturally. Long before her appearance became a topic of public debate, Donatella embodied a bold, distinctly Italian elegance, strong features, expressive eyes, and a presence that felt both glamorous and human. When she stepped fully into the spotlight in the late 1990s after the tragic murder of her brother, Gianni Versace, the pressure intensified. She was no longer just a designer, she was the living face of a global fashion empire. Every public appearance became a statement, and every sign of aging carried professional weight. Her physical changes appeared gradually. Early signs suggested subtle rhinoplasty, refining her nose without erasing its character. Over time, however, attention shifted to more aggressive anti-aging measures. Suspected facelifts tightened her skin to the point of rigidity, while repeated fillers altered the natural balance of her lips and cheeks. Her eyes, once heavy-lidded and expressive, appeared more lifted and fixed, consistent with blepharoplasty and brow procedures. None of these choices were irrational in isolation. Each likely felt like a reasonable response to an industry that rarely forgives women for growing older. Yet together, they reshaped her face into something markedly different from what audiences once recognized. Donatella Versace's transformation is not a cautionary tale about vanity alone. It is a reflection of how relentless beauty standards can quietly push even the most powerful women toward decisions that blur the line between preservation and loss. Raji Narinesingh's experience represents one of the darkest consequences of cosmetic intervention, not because of vanity, but because of trust placed in the wrong hands. Like many people seeking small aesthetic improvements, Raji wanted subtle enhancement, not transformation. Her goal was modest, driven by hope rather than obsession. In 2005, limited financial resources and persuasive promises led her to an unlicensed practitioner operating outside the medical system. What was presented as a routine injectable procedure quickly turned into a life-altering disaster. Instead of medically approved fillers, industrial-grade substances were injected into her face, materials never intended for human use. At first, the damage was not fully visible. Over time, the substances hardened beneath her skin, permanently distorting her facial structure. Areas meant to appear smoother became uneven and swollen, particularly in the cheeks and mid-face. Unlike surgical procedures that can sometimes be corrected, these illegal injections caused progressive damage that proved extremely difficult to reverse. Physical pain was accompanied by emotional devastation, as Raji watched her former appearance disappear. For years, she withdrew from public life, carrying not only visible deformities but deep psychological trauma. Shame, fear, and isolation became part of her daily reality. Hope eventually emerged when she appeared on the television series Botched, where board-certified surgeons carefully attempted to repair the damage. While full restoration was impossible, their work significantly improved both her appearance and quality of life. Today, Raji Narinesingh speaks openly about her experience as a warning. Her story is not about poor judgment, but about vulnerability. It exposes the real dangers of illegal cosmetic procedures and reminds us that shortcuts in beauty can carry consequences that last a lifetime. Jocelyn Wildenstein's transformation is often reduced to shock value, but doing so misses the deeper truth behind her story. Long before headlines and cruel nicknames, she was known as a strikingly beautiful Swiss-born socialite, admired for her strong features and confident presence. Her appearance was once part of her identity, not something she felt the need to defend. Her journey into cosmetic surgery unfolded gradually, beginning during her marriage to billionaire Alec Wildenstein. At the time, aesthetic procedures were evolving rapidly and largely unregulated among the wealthy elite. What likely began as small, corrective enhancements slowly became habitual. Surgeries around the eyes altered their shape through repeated blepharoplasties, creating an exaggerated upward slant. Over time, cheek implants, fillers, skin tightening, and multiple facelifts dramatically reshaped her face. Each procedure seemed to promise improvement, yet each also created new imbalances that encouraged further intervention. This cycle is not unique to Jocelyn. It reflects a broader psychological trap where perfection always feels just one procedure away. Once the original features are altered, returning to them becomes impossible. Despite widespread speculation, Jocelyn has consistently denied excessive surgical work, attributing her appearance to genetics. Whether this is denial or self-protection is difficult to judge. What is clear is that her face became a public spectacle long before society was prepared to discuss cosmetic ethics with compassion. Now in her 80s, Jocelyn Wildenstein stands as a powerful reminder of the limits of surgery and the human cost of fearing time too deeply. Her story is not about ridicule, but about restraint, boundaries, and how easily identity can be reshaped beyond recognition. Courteney Cox became a cultural icon at a time when beauty felt effortless and natural. As Monica Geller on Friends, she was admired not just for her looks, but for her expressiveness with her face moved, reacted, and conveyed warmth in a way that made her instantly relatable. During the show's peak in the 1990s, her appearance reflected youth without calculation. As the years passed, Hollywood's expectations for women quietly shifted. Aging became something to manage rather than accept, and subtle cosmetic treatments were increasingly framed as maintenance. Like many actresses of her generation, Courteney began with conservative enhancements, small amounts of Botox and dermal fillers meant to soften lines and preserve familiarity. Over time, however, those choices accumulated. Treatments became more frequent, and the effects more noticeable. Facial movement gradually stiffened, and expressions once full of energy appeared restricted. Viewers began to sense a distance between the actress they remembered and the face now on screen. What was intended to preserve her image instead altered it. What separates Courteney Cox from many others is her willingness to acknowledge discomfort. She later admitted that at one point she no longer recognized herself, a realization that carried both honesty and regret. Rather than continue chasing correction, she chose a different path. In 2017, she made the deliberate decision to dissolve her fillers, allowing her face to gradually return to a more natural state. The change was not instant, but it was intentional. Today, her story is often cited not as a failure, but as an example of self-awareness proof that stepping back, even publicly, can be an act of strength in an industry that rarely rewards restraint. Simon Cowell built a career on blunt honesty. As a music executive and television judge, he became one of the most recognizable faces in entertainment. Direct, confident, and unapologetically himself. But constant exposure to high-definition cameras and public scrutiny created a pressure that even someone as self-assured as Cowell could not fully escape. As the years passed, Simon turned to cosmetic procedures in an effort to maintain a youthful, energetic image. His journey began conservatively with Botox, intended to soften wrinkles and reduce visible aging. At first, the changes were subtle and largely accepted by the public. Encouraged by early results, he pursued more aggressive interventions over time. Facelifts followed, designed to tighten sagging skin and restore firmness. Instead of achieving a refreshed appearance, the cumulative effect became excessive. His skin appeared overly stretched, and his facial expressions lost their natural range. Viewers began to describe his look as frozen or permanently surprised, an unintended outcome that shifted attention away from his words and toward his face.
What makes Simon Cowell's story notable is his openness about regret. In interviews, he acknowledged that he had gone too far, admitting he no longer recognized himself at one point. A particularly sobering moment came when his young son reacted with visible concern to his appearance, forcing Cowell to confront the emotional impact of his choices. That realization marked a turning point. In recent years, Simon has publicly stated that he now favors restraint and acceptance over correction. His experience serves as a reminder that even those who control the spotlight are vulnerable to its pressure, and that knowing when to stop can be far more difficult than starting in the first place. Igor and Grichka Bogdanoff were once known for their intellect as much as their appearance. In the 1970s and 1980s, the French twin brothers emerged as charismatic television hosts and public intellectuals, recognizable for their symmetrical features, strong jawlines, and confident presence. Their look matched their reputation, distinctive but firmly within the boundaries of the human and familiar. Beginning in the late 1990s, their appearances began to change in ways that were impossible to ignore. The transformation unfolded gradually, almost quietly, over many years. Their cheekbones became unusually high and rigid, giving their faces an exaggerated mid-face volume that defied natural anatomy. Speculation followed, with observers suggesting repeated use of fillers or implants, though nothing was ever confirmed. As time passed, their lower faces changed as well. Their chins appeared elongated and heavier, altering the balance of their facial proportions. Lips became fuller and less mobile, and the overall texture of their skin took on a stretched, sculpted quality. Rather than restoring youth, these cumulative changes transformed their faces into something abstract, almost symbolic. Throughout the speculation, the Bogdanoff brothers consistently denied undergoing cosmetic surgery, offering explanations involving personal philosophy and experimental technology. Whether taken literally or metaphorically, their responses only deepened public fascination. Over time, their faces became cultural icons, often described as alien-like, a label they met with irony rather than defensiveness. Their story resists simple conclusions. It is neither a clear cautionary tale nor a confirmed medical case. Instead, it stands as a complex example of how identity, perception, and repeated aesthetic alteration, real or perceived, can permanently redefine how a person is seen. In the end, the Bogdanoffs became inseparable from the faces they created, for better or worse. Heidi Montag's transformation stands out not because it happened over decades, but because of how suddenly and intensely it occurred. At the height of her fame on The Hills, Heidi was living inside a reality television world where appearance was currency and youth felt non-negotiable. Every moment was watched, discussed, and judged, leaving little room for patience or self-doubt. In 2009, driven by mounting pressure and a desire to control how she was seen, Heidi made an unprecedented decision. In a single day, she underwent 10 cosmetic procedures. The speed and scale of the surgeries shocked both the public and medical professionals. Rather than allowing time for healing or reflection, her body and face were altered all at once. The most dramatic changes appeared in her face. A second rhinoplasty refined her nose further, while a brow lift raised her eyebrows into a permanently wide-eyed expression. Adjustments to her chin and mid-face altered her natural proportions, creating a look that felt unfamiliar even to longtime fans. These procedures did not simply enhance features. Together, they fundamentally changed her identity. Public reaction was divided. Some framed her choice as empowerment, while others voiced concern over the physical and emotional toll. In the years that followed, Heidi herself acknowledged that the experience was traumatic.
She spoke openly about pain, fear, and regret, admitting she underestimated the consequences. Her story is now often cited as a cautionary tale not about vanity, but about speed, pressure, and the danger of making irreversible decisions before understanding their cost. These stories are not about judging appearance or condemning choice. They are about understanding how fame, fear, and unrealistic standards can slowly push people past healthy limits. Cosmetic surgery is not the villain pressure is. When the desire to stay young replaces self-acceptance, even icons can lose the faces the world once loved. If this video made you reflect, support the conversation by liking, sharing, and subscribing. More stories like these remind us that restraint, honesty, and knowing when to stop matter more than perfection.